Finishing a bachelor's in under 2 years? It's possible for most adults with UMass Lowell's accelerated and affordable online courses. Explore course options starting January 18th at UMass Lowell. Visit gps.uml.edu.
This is a St. Jude moment.
Ashton was a high-level athlete, and in an instant, your world flips. And your healthy 5-year-old competitive cheerleader has a brain tumor. And the physician was like, your best option is St. Jude. Receiving treatment that was life-saving for our child and knowing that that treatment would be of no cost to us was a huge weight lifted.
Learn more at stjude.org.
Everybody, Happy New Year. Welcome. It's Matt Connarton Unleashed, the weekend edition, the first weekend edition of Unleashed for the year 2018. And here we are. I am back for the attack, to quote Dawkins. I hadn't intended, by the way, to take a couple of weeks off from the weekend edition. That was not my intention, but as happenstance would have it, as happenstance will happen. That is what transpired. It just got very, very hectic in my world the last couple of weeks, and then things just really kind of snuck up on me. The week of Christmas, I was off as far as doing the weekday version of the show. And then next thing I knew, it was Friday, because I typically I'm going to pull back the curtain quite a bit today. I'm going to break the fourth wall, if you will, in terms of the show and share some things with you that have been going on. But typically I record this program Thursday nights. It hasn't always been that way. I used to do it live, the weekend edition of the show, but lately I've been recording it for a couple of months now on Thursday evenings, right here at, I'm coming to you from the studio of WMNH 95.3 in downtown Manchester, New Hampshire, which is kind of my home base. And this version of the show does not run on WMNH. It is, of course, every Saturday at 12 noon on Revealing Talk Radio at revealingtalkradio.com. And we also carry the show on IPM Nation. The weekday version of the show, of course, streams live weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on WMNH 95.3 at WMNHradio.org, and now also on Facebook Live on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page, as well as on IPM Nation. But yeah, last couple of weeks have just been wild. So, so we ran repeats, but we're back. Now, as I am sitting here on this Thursday evening, and by the way, this is I got to get back into the habit of doing this. This is, of course, the weekend edition for Saturday, January 6th, 2018. I have a difficult time saying January 6th. That's a difficult word for me. It's the XTH combination in the word sixth. So I usually just cheat and say 6. Even though if I were saying the 5th or the 7th, I mean, I wouldn't say January 5 or January 7, which is acceptable actually to do it that way, but I don't do it that way. I would say January 5th or January 7th, but January 6th, that's just difficult for me. So difficult, in fact, it makes me glad that there is this pop filter on the microphone, because here at WMNH, I share this microphone with others, and I would hate for my spittle, especially during cold and flu season, to get all over the microphone as I attempt to say sixths. That S-I-X-T-H. That combination is just, it's just too hard. It's just too hard. I can't do it. So let's see. I will also tell you, as I am sitting here on this Thursday night, so right now, the weather outside is frightful. And there ain't nothing that's delightful, not outside. So we're in the midst of this terrible, terrible storm that has wreaked or wrecked, whichever you choose, havoc havoc, I say, up the eastern, the east coast of the United States, beginning down in Florida. Florida, of all places, has gotten snow. It's a terrible calamity. So lots of thoughts and prayers and positive energy to Florida, who obviously, I mean, these people probably don't even have shovels. Why would they? They never see snow. They're probably all out, going outside in the streets with, big buckets full of hot water and just dumping them in the streets to try to melt everything. No, actually, everything probably just melts the next day anyway because it warms up. But yes, a terrible storm. And as I sit here on Thursday night at WMNH, I'm on the third floor. And I was up on the fourth floor a few minutes ago. It's a little quieter on the third floor. On the fourth floor, because obviously the higher up you are in the building, I was in the production studio up there, and the wind was just incredible outside. And I'm sitting here thinking, and again, I'm not getting nearly the effect on the third floor, but I got to tell you, I am sitting here on Thursday night dreading going home. Not the drive home. It's been a terrible storm here, and the roads are probably terrible, but I don't have that far to go here in the city of Manchester, over the bridge and through the woods. No, I'm kidding. I don't have to go through the woods, but I do have to go over the bridge. But what I'm terrified of is walking. Excuse me. Oh, there it is. The wind's whipping up now. I hear it. Yep, the windows are actually shaking a little bit. I'm terrified of walking from the building back to the Jeep in the parking garage. I'm now holding back a sneeze. I'm not sick. My nose is tingling. I'm terrified of this. And I'm terrified of this because it's going to be probably the worst wind I've ever tried to walk through, judging from what's going on outside when I look out these windows. Wow. When I got here today, it's about, as I record this, it's a little bit after 7:30 on Thursday night. I got here at about 3 p.m. this afternoon because I go live 4 to 6 on my live show, and I like to get here around 3. So I have time to really set up and settle in. Plus, we're doing Facebook Live now. And sure enough, something went wrong on my first day of trying to do... there was no audio because on the Facebook Live feed specifically, because Facebook Live is... they have... you're not permitted to stream copyrighted audio at all. And I used some audio for the opening of my show that I didn't think would be a problem, and I guess it was, because there was no audio coming through the Facebook Live feed, only video, even though the audio was going out on the live stream and whatnot. So, and of course, on the FM band. But anyway, so I got to the parking garage and I parked, and I come out of it, and I'm, I just have to walk about. It's really just about a block and a half. To get to the building, and the wind. Have you ever walked in wind? Forgive me for sniffling. All day long, I haven't had to sniffle until now. Have you ever had to walk in wind that is so severe, it's hitting you in the face with such ferocity and veracity that it's difficult to breathe? Like you can't breathe as you're trying to walk in this wind. That's kind of a rare thing, at least for me. I haven't experienced that too much, but I experienced that today walking from the vehicle to the building, and I'm dreading what it's going to be like now. Now, when the wind appears to be really terrible, what it's going to be like walking from the building back to the vehicle. So I'm not looking forward to that at all. But, I'm going to have to go home at some point. And when I finish up recording this show, that's probably what it's going to be. I feel like I've been here all day, and in a sense I have. I came in this morning to do the morning show I was invited to appear on the morning show. The guys have me on occasionally. The morning show with Peter White and the Moose, which also airs here on WMNH, and we do carry it on IPM Nation live as well. So I got to come in and hang out with those guys. And so it's been a long day. Boy, all of a sudden I'm tired too. It's hitting me. It's hitting me all of a sudden. But what else happened today that's interesting? And like I said, I'm going to really break the fourth wall today. And because I'm always fascinated by kind of when I like a radio show, I'm a radio guy. So I like to learn as much sort of behind the scenes stuff as I can. So I always enjoy it when hosts break the fourth wall and kind of let you peek inside what goes on. And so this morning, after the morning show, the gentleman, his name is Jason. I won't tell you his full name, but not that he's going to listen to this. I don't think he cares about, because he's focused on the station. He's not worried about what goes on outside of the station. So I doubt very much that he actually listens to the weekend edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed, because it airs on RTR instead of WMNH. But Jason wanted to discuss something with me after the morning show. Now, anybody who's worked in radio who does a show like I do, it's one thing if you're just playing tunes and talking between them. But when you do a talk show, and particularly when you do a political show, or you do a show where maybe you use a lot of humor, or, my show is weird because my show is basically a political show. But let's be honest, I got a little shock jock in me. And I like to incorporate other elements too. Sometimes I'll have musical guests. And sometimes, depending on who's in the studio with me, we'll goof off and not even talk about politics. We'll talk about other things. And we'll use a lot of humor. And sometimes we get into some very weird places, go off into some strange zones. So it can be pretty weird sometimes in here, but I like that. I don't think there's anything quite like my show, at least not that I've heard recently on terrestrial FM radio. There are podcasts certainly like my show. So I'm not trying to say I'm doing anything terribly original, but I do think my show is unique in that, in terrestrial radio, you don't often find a political program, a program that's primarily political, that has such a loose and sort of freewheeling vibe as my show does. And part of that, too, is because I have a list of people, an unwritten, unofficial list of people that I keep in my head, of people whom I consider friends of the show. And a friend of the show is someone who, they're on a level above a guest. I have guests come in, but friend of the show, they're the next level up. And a friend of the show is someone whom appears more often on the program than a guest would, but also someone to whom I've extended a certain carte blanche. A friend of the show is someone whom I've told, pop in on the show whenever you like. You don't even have to tell me ahead of time that you're coming in. You can just show up. And there's probably about 7 or 8 people on that list, people with whom I have that kind of relationship where they can just show up whenever they want. As long as, they have to understand that if they do show up and don't communicate with me ahead of time, that's fine. And I like the spontaneity of it, as long as they can accept that I might already be doing something and might already have somebody on, or might already be talking about a subject. And so if and when they do just spontaneously pop in, they're welcome to, and they can get on a mic. And it's, this studio, it's got a bunch of mics and it's very comfortable in here. It's wonderful. But they may have to jump into and participate in what we're already doing. In other words, I'm not just going to stop the show and focus on them. but they can jump in almost like they're jumping on a merry-go-round. So there's probably about 7 or 8 people with whom I have that kind of arrangement with, because I like to keep it loose and I like to be very spontaneous. And most political programs, again, not necessarily the case with podcasts, because podcasts are, it's like the Wild West of radio, right? You can find all kinds of podcasts, and there's lots of there's political podcasts that I listen to that have that vibe, that are very, very loose and freewheeling. But of course, with a podcast, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to answer to anybody. You don't have a format or anything unless you construct one yourself, right? You have complete freedom. But as far as an FM show like mine, I don't think there's anything quite like it that I've heard recently. I mean, as far as doing a show that's mostly political with an element of shock jock in it, and that term, I almost feel self-conscious using that term, shock jock. It does feel a little bit dated. It does feel a little bit, mid-90s to mid-2000s, that sort of decade. That's the shock jock decade right there, right? I would say probably 95 to 2005. 95, that's probably when Howard Stern was at his absolute. What year did Private Parts come out? Howard Stern's movie Private Parts. That was around 95, right? And that was really kind of his apex. Howard is still a very successful, very big deal. His career has never waned. He's on Sirius satellite radio, and he's the highest paid guy in all of radio still. But I think the apex of his career, at least in terms of FM radio, probably 95. And I think that would be the decade of the shock jock, 95 to 2005. Now, Don Imus, and of course we all remember what happened. Now, he's still around, even at his advanced age. But of course, he's had some trouble. He's had a kerfuffle or two. But he kind of, and maybe he's influenced me in ways that I didn't even realize. Because I remember in the early 90s hearing Imus. Never cared much for his style of speaking into a microphone. He's kind of a mumbler a little bit. And I don't think he's particularly entertaining or insightful, to be honest with you. But I do remember being intrigued when I first started listening to him by his sort of fusion of, he discussed politics and he interviewed politicians. And that seemed to be his focus, was politics. But he also had an element of shock jock. People considered him to be a shock jock. I think over time, he got more and more political and less shock jock-ish. But if I were to try to look for a parallel, I would go with that. Because I use, again, we're talking about politics, but I use a lot of very sarcastic humor, dry humor, and I do like to blurt out occasionally some ridiculous, insane, shocking sounding things. And I do enjoy, particularly if I'm having a very serious political dialogue with someone, it is fun to completely derail and wreck the whole thing with something absurd that I just blurt out. I enjoy that kind of thing. So, there was, Imus had an element, at least back when I used to listen to him somewhat, goes back, like I said, early 90s. Wow. It's a long time ago. Gone in the blink of an eye. Geez, he seemed old then. But he was old then. I remember Howard Stern back then. Doesn't seem so funny now that Howard's old. But back then, I remember Howard Stern, when he and Imus were feuding, he'd refer to him as crumbled cracker face. Anyway. Boy, I can hear the snowplows outside. I'm not looking forward to going home. But yeah, so I was intrigued by Imus kind of injecting some of that into the political programming. But like I said, I don't think there's really anything quite like my show on FM radio that I've heard. Plus, there's also the uniqueness of I'm an independent. Most political programming is either conservative or liberal, and there's a lot of libertarian programming too. But me, I'm a true independent. I don't attach myself to any particular ideology, and I like it that way. But see, when I first took the gig here at WMNH, when I was first offered, when Jason and I sat down for that first meeting, And another member of management was there also, Joe. I'll leave the last names out of it. Not that I think either of them is going to hear this, but what they wanted out of this was, they wanted me to bring. They were very familiar with my TV show because there also used to be a television edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed. And it's still, you can still, I don't do that show anymore, that version of the show, but you can find it on the IPM Nation YouTube channel. I do miss it, but part of the deal, contractually, I had to agree to this, was that I was going to give up my weekly television show in order to do this weekday radio show 5 days a week. But part of what they wanted from me was, so I had to give up the TV show, but they also wanted me to, I wasn't asked to dial it back so much as, because on the TV show I'd get pretty wound up. They wanted me to be me. They wanted me to be, quote unquote, unleashed, but a little less shock jock. And, it's funny too. It hadn't occurred to me until just now. I remember having a similar conversation with a certain someone when I started doing the weekend edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed on Revealing Talk Radio. I need you to be a little less shock jock. I gotta find another term for that, by the way. I feel it just sounds so dated, shock jock. Who even says that anymore? A little less provocative, maybe. I don't know. Need to find another term for that to express that. But so I was worried because I really didn't change anything. like I was supposed to dial it back a little bit, and I really didn't. I did in the beginning, but as I gained, because I know, I actually, as much as I like to push the envelope, as much as I like to push the boundaries, I do know what is too much. I do actually have a really good gauge in terms of, I might not always have the best judgment, but I have a good barometer in terms of, okay, where is the line? I'm going to walk right up to it, but I'm not going to go over it because I know where the line is. I can figure it out as I go. A couple of conversations have been had with me about the content of the weekday edition of the show. Jason has had to talk to me a couple of times, but in both times, it wasn't because of anything I did. One time it was because John Hopwood, who is one of the friends of the show, who appears on the show actually quite often. John and I have a great time. John got a little out of control with, making allegations about people and whatnot. And Jason got nervous about, we're going to get sued. We don't want to get the station to get sued. So he kind of talked to me about that, trying to rein John in a little bit, which is very difficult to do. And then the other time he talked to me was there was an argument that occurred on the show between a couple of guests, actually both technically friends of the show, which got pretty out of control. And Jason wanted me to try to keep a little bit more control. That's actually a criticism that I've heard from other people too, is that sometimes I lose control of the show. But what people don't realize is, no, actually, I never lose control of the show. What might sound like me losing control of the show is actually me being in control, because something I learned from all those years of listening to Howard Stern is, if something, Opie and Anthony kind of taught me this too, more shock jocks. Geez, I'm more influenced by shock jocks than I am actual political talk show hosts, I guess. But something I learned is, if something really interesting is transpiring in the studio between two guests, like an argument, arguments are fascinating, right? Who doesn't enjoy listening to an argument? My favorite stuff ever on Howard Stern or Opie and Anthony has been when there's been arguments among the staff in the studio, when they're like going at it, when they're angry with each other. That to me is fascinating to listen to. And I think it's compelling to a lot of people. I love that stuff. Love it. There was an argument between Opie and Anthony that happened, what was it, back in 2009, I think. You can find it on YouTube. That is epic. I've probably listened to it 5 or 6 times. Like if I'm up working late at night on the computer and I'm falling asleep, I'll go to YouTube and I'll listen to this Opie and Anthony argument again. It perks me up. It wakes me up. It's just fascinating to listen to. But so I'm not losing control of the show when something really compelling is going on in the studio between a couple of guests and I kind of lean back. Because just because I'm the host doesn't mean I need to be talking all the time. I don't. And part of being in control and part of being a good host is knowing and having the confidence to kind of lean back a little bit and stay out of the way and only re-interject myself when it's necessary. But also not feeling like, oh no, I'm the host of the show. People are going to think I've let somebody else take over the show if I don't say anything here. No. Being in control is having the confidence and having the judgment to know when to lean back. And I'm not afraid to do that if something really interesting is happening on the show and people are arguing. And I love it when people argue. But this particular argument, and it's funny, Jason hasn't given me a hard time about any of the other arguments, but this one particular argument that did occur on the show, he felt it went a little too far and that I did lose control. And I tried to explain to him, no, I didn't lose control. I just thought it was great radio. And he was uncomfortable with it. There's been other arguments. There's been many arguments that have happened on the show, though, that he didn't say anything to me about, but he probably doesn't like when any of that stuff happens. That's not necessarily the kind of radio that he wants, but I get a lot of great feedback that that's what a lot of other people want. So when Jason said to me after the morning show that he needed to talk to me, I was like, oh no, this is, because anybody who's ever done a show like not that I'm comparing myself to him, but like Howard Stern, of course, he got fired by various radio stations early in his career. There was always a battle over content. How far is too far? What can you do? What can't you do? What words can you say? What words can't you say? All that kind of stuff. So I mean, anyone who's worked in radio knows the battles and the angst and the sort of grappling for control of content that goes on between hosts and management. This is not unusual. But overall at WMNH, they have left me gloriously alone and to my own devices, which is wonderful, because I didn't think it was going to be that way in the beginning. When that initial discussion was had with me and I agreed to take the gig, I was given the impression that management was going to be much more hands-on with the show and really monitoring me much more closely and giving me much more input and feedback. I thought that's what it was going to be, and I wasn't thrilled that that's what it was going to be, but I was willing to do that and then hopefully gain their trust. And then the training wheels come off and let me ride. But the training wheels never even really got put on, and they kind of just trusted me and let me ride from the beginning. And it's been great. So aside from a couple of instances, they've been wonderfully hands-off and have let me do my thing and have stayed out of my way. And I am so appreciative. But for a moment today, when Jason said he wanted to see me, I was like, oh no, that's coming to an end. I mean, I didn't think I was getting fired or anything. I certainly didn't think I was losing the show, because all indications are everyone's happy with the show. But I just thought, oh, he wants me to rein it in. There was some truth to that, but it actually worked out really well. And here's what happened. So part of why this discussion happened is there is a cable channel here in Manchester, New Hampshire, Channel 97.
So many wines to choose from, but what works best with Thanksgiving dinner?
I guess it depends on whether you like white or red.
I like options. That's why I get a Thanksgiving collection from Mayhew Wine Shop delivered to my door. 12-bottle cases now 15% off. 6 bottles are 10% off. 3-bottle collections just $73. And get 100 loyalty points for any order, which equals a $5 reward on your next one.
Wow.
Order your Thanksgiving collection delivery now at mayhewwine.com. That's mayhewwine.com.
and it's controlled by Manchester Public Television, and it's a new channel that they just launched. They actually call it the History Channel, and that might sound odd. You might think, the History Channel? There's already a History Channel. Every cable system has the History Channel. What is this? Well, the History Channel here in Manchester on Manchester Public Television is they're showing old recorded Board of Mayor and Alderman meetings. And if you don't know what an alderman is, because other than Manchester, I don't know who else uses that term. Alderman, it's another term for city council member or assemblyman, or you get the idea. Different cities have different names for that. In Manchester, we call them aldermen. You know, old school board meetings, old planning board meetings. So if you turn on the History Channel, which I don't think streams online yet. I think it's only available on local cable here in Manchester, New Hampshire. But if you turn on the History Channel, Channel 97, you'll see these old meetings and speeches, and it's kind of interesting, I guess. Somebody's car alarm is going. I don't know if the mic's picking that up. Nah, I'm not hearing it in the headphones. But it's like right outside the building. It sounds like it's right in front of the building. So the morning show, the other thing that's on the History Channel is the morning show here at WMNH. They're now broadcast. It's the same live feed that goes to Facebook Live. They're also now broadcasting on, because we have cameras. I didn't mention that, did I? We have cameras set up. We have 4 cameras that I can control from this box. It's well, it's not literally a box, but from this device next to the main board here in the studio. So the morning show is now on the History Channel, and I was under the impression that my show was also going to be on the History Channel 4 to 6 every day. So if you're in Manchester, you could watch it on your regular television on cable, as well as listen to it online or watch it on Facebook Live. That horn is driving me nuts, by the way. Oh, it finally stopped. Great. The sound of a horn like that, just, I can usually tune out most sounds, but that one bugs me. So I was under the impression that my show was going to be on the History Channel as well. Well, it turns out it is, but I have to make a change. So here's what happened when I went in for my meeting with Jason. Jason wants to put the show on the History Channel in about a month. Not yet. The morning show's already on there. He wants to wait a little bit. Hopefully it'll be less than a month, because I really want to get this done. But here's what he told me. He's not comfortable with putting the show on Channel 97 in its current form. And here's why. Because I have a lot of people come on the show who want to talk about local Manchester, New Hampshire politics. And some of the things that are discussed, he's a little bit concerned. Well, some of the things that people say, like some of the things John Hopwood has said, he's a little bit concerned about opening us up to liability. And he doesn't want to, and he doesn't want the show getting too local. Now, we did just have city elections recently, so that was part of why some local people would come in and want to campaign and whatnot. But what Jason suggested to me is he would like the show to revert to what it was that we had originally talked about, which is a show that, even though it's on WMNH here in Manchester, New Hampshire, and knowing that it streams other places as well, you know, that we do have, you know, very limited syndication, but what if the show were to go back to being what it was originally pitched to be, a show where I discuss national politics and maybe some state politics too, but national politics, and I don't have people coming in and talking about local Manchester, New Hampshire politics and having to constantly say things like, when, you know, if somebody comes in, because local Manchester politics is really nasty. And I know that's true in a lot of places. That's not something that's unique to Manchester, but it's nasty in this city. So rather than, he said, instead of having these people come in and they say these incendiary things, and I have to constantly remind everybody that, okay, the opinions of this person, by the way, just remember, those are this person's opinions and they do not reflect those of WMNH or me or this program or, he said, and here's what he told me. He said, I can continue to do the show exactly the way I've been doing it if I want to. He's not telling me I have to change it or that he even wants me to change it. He's just telling me that I will need to change it if I want the show to be on Channel 97 because he wants a certain standard on that show. And with the local people who come in, it becomes kind of a circus. And again, I like the circus. But he doesn't feel that the circus is professional enough to also put the show on Channel 97 because it's going to really raise the profile of the show. And because it's already doing that for the morning show, which is already on Channel 97, starting, they just started doing that. And it's already raised their profile. So he wants a tighter, more professional show, and he doesn't want the kind of circus that, yes, it's entertaining at times, but he just doesn't think it's appropriate for Channel 97. So he gave me the option. He said, I can continue to do the show exactly as I have been. And if I want to do that, that's absolutely fine. But I have to understand that if I'm going to do that, then, and I don't want to change anything, that he's not comfortable putting the show on Channel 97. And there's only 2 shows that air on WMNH that he has even considered putting on Channel 97, my show and the morning show. We have other shows, too, that air that he does not want to put on Channel 97. So he presented this to me, and what I said to him is, see, I was dreading this conversation because I thought it was going to be a reel me in kind of thing. I ended up being glad that this conversation happened because then I said to Jason, I was very honest with him, very upfront. I said, as you're saying this, I'm thinking it through, and I'm glad that you're telling me this. And yes, I do want to be on Channel 97, and yes, I will make this change because, and this is true, from the very beginning, from the very first edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed that I did here at WMNH, because keep in mind, the show has existed for, I started Matt Connarton Unleashed in 2011, the summer of 2011. That was the beginning of this show. But this particular incarnation of it, doing this on FM radio, since the beginning, which was April of last year. So it's been less than a year that I've even been doing this show. It'll be a year in April 4th, I think. Since the beginning, I have been torn. I have been conflicted about the show and the direction of the show, because on the one hand, I wanted the show to be about national politics, because that's what I am most interested in. That's what I am most conversant in. That is my strength in terms of what I talk about. And so that's what I wanted the show to be. I wanted the show to be about national politics. However, I have also seen the value of mixing that with local people, local candidates coming in, and people just coming on talking about local politics. And there's been some really, because we've got some characters around here. Remember that list I have of friends of the show? There's some wild characters on that list. So, and having those characters come in here and letting them kind of run wild a little bit, and having that circus, that's been entertaining. It's certainly kept me interested and excited about what I do. So I've been really torn on that. Part of me wants and has wanted to get the show back to what it was supposed to be, which is what it was before I brought it here to WMNH, and this other part of me that sees the value in doing the local stuff. And I said to Jason, I said, now I don't have to be conflicted. I don't have to be torn on this anymore. You, by kind of giving me this choice, have also given me guidance, and I can now say, great, we're going to kill the local stuff. The local stuff was fun for a while. Some interesting moments, some very interesting moments in radio history have occurred because of the local stuff. But you know what? Now we're going to refocus, redirect, and get back to doing what I know how to do best, which is discuss national politics. So that's what we're going to do. And now I don't have to be torn anymore. And Jason said to me, he said, that's great. And, I'll back you up 100%. If anyone has a problem with it, any of the, because he knows everybody who comes, everybody who's on my list of friends of the show, Jason's familiar with all of them to some degree. So he told me, he said, look, I'll back you up 100% on whatever you want to do. So if this is the new direction, which is really the original direction, and we're getting back to it and refocusing it, great. He said, make me the bad guy if you want. He said, I don't care. Blame it on if you want to, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to be upfront and honest with everybody. I had to talk to John Hopwood today about it, and he was totally understanding. But he said, if you have to, make me the bad guy. Tell him it's my fault. I'm insisting you make this change. I don't care. He said, I want to back you up. I want to make sure that that this works for you and that we continue to make this a bigger success. And let's see how the next month goes. And then I don't think it's going to be a month. I think it'll be less, but let's see how this goes. And then we can look at putting the show on Channel 97. So that's what happened today. It was an interesting day. But it's kind of a relief because, like I said, I have been torn about the show and sometimes, like I said, the local stuff creates very interesting moments and very interesting conversations. So I do see the value in that. But there's also a part of me that just wanted to be done with that and just go back to talking about the stuff that I know something about and can be conversant in and can speak extemporaneously on. And I can't do that with local. I don't know enough about local politics other than it's really pretty gross at times. So that's what happened today. That's my story. My long story. So here we are. So I think what we're going to do to finish off this week's weekend edition, because I do need to get, we've got a little bit of show left. But I can't put this off any longer. I need to leave this building and get to the parking garage and just brave what I'm about to walk into, which is very strong wind, and it's going to be awful and unbearable, and I'm really dreading this. But I've got to get it over with. I have to go home. I have more work waiting for me at home, so I have to get home. So what we're going to do is, I think, to finish off this week's show, I'm going to finish with a little bit of this afternoon's show when I was when I was on the air, and Glenn R.J. Willett, one of my many friends of the show, stopped in, and we had a really fun conversation. Glenn is quite a character. I actually haven't broken it to Glenn yet that we're not doing local stuff anymore. He's going to be kind of bummed. But he's also very conversant in national politics. At one time, he did try to take our discussion today. He came in for the second hour of the show. I was alone for the first hour. At one point, he did try to take it local, and then I redirected the discussion. So I think we'll give you a little bit of a taste of that. Glenn is one of my best friends. I love Glenn, but he is very weird and eccentric. By his own admission, he knows this about himself, and he embraces it, but he's a lot of fun. So we had a great conversation, and I think it was pretty entertaining. So we're going to finish off the show with that. That way I can get out of here. I can get home and be safe. Oh, this is going to be awful. I'm not looking forward to going outside. Oh, that wind. All right, so thank you, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed, the weekend edition, Saturdays at 12 noon to 1 p.m. here on Revealing Talk Radio at revealingtalkradio.com and on IPM Nation as well, where we do post the show on demand. And that's it for now. I will talk at y'all a little bit later on Monday if you tune in for the weekday show. And otherwise, of course, I'll see you back here next week for the weekend edition. And I will leave you now with some of my interaction with the People's Mayor. That's what he calls himself here in Manchester. The People's Mayor, Glenn R.J. Willett. I don't know. Pick something. Pick something that's a scourge in this country. Is the word scourge or scourge? Glenn, is it scourge or scourge?
You can say it both ways.
You can say it both ways.
Depending what you mean by it.
So I can go both ways on that. That's wonderful.
I didn't know you went both ways.
Well, apparently I can on that. Are we talking about the same thing? How dare you, Glenn R.J. Willett? You have taken me...
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
You, sir, have taken me down the primrose path, and I don't even know what that means.
And how many times you take me down there?
I've never taken you down there. How dare you? Once again, Glenn R.J. Willett, you are casting aspersions. Or as I inadvertently misspoke yesterday when chatting with the Honorable Gary S. Hopper, I said casting dispersions, which is wrong, and he had to correct me. And I was thoroughly embarrassed.
You know what I'm missing is when we used to have, if there was a fire or a big accident, the radio would tell us. We don't have that no more. They cut off those channels from us. I'm
going to tell you right now, Glenn R.J. Willett, I heard some sirens earlier. I think there's been some accidents today.
Well, this wasn't for an accident. This is about a half a dozen trucks coming from both sides of Elm Street, the north and the south, and they were heading down towards the mill yard. So I hope there's nothing going on.
I thought you were going to say a half a dozen trucks were all coming down Elm Street and they got into a big accident, like a demolition derby.
No, they were coming down Elm Street, but they didn't hit an accident.
That would be terrible. Can you imagine? What would you do if you saw something like that happen? Would you run over and try to pull people from the wreckage?
Well, I would think so. That would be the common sense thing to do.
Not only that, that would get you elected.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, you don't do stuff like that to get elected because that's not character.
Oh. So you just let everyone die?
No, I would do it because it's the common thing to do.
Oh.
It's Mother Nature. It's your instinct inside that you would help someone.
Yes.
But if you're doing it for wrong reasons, that doesn't build your character.
Well, I'd want to get something out of the deal.
Really? So you're one of those that you'll do nothing for nothing.
Well, it's cold out.
Well, what does that have to do with it?
Well,
You're going to save a life.
What would you do if...
just the satisfaction of knowing you saved a life, you wouldn't do it?
But what if I don't have gloves?
Who needs gloves at a time like this? When you're in a crisis, a good leader just reacts.
Well, Glenn, I never claimed to have leadership qualities. My goodness, I think you're projecting on me a bit. I am not President Trump. I do not have these incredible abilities.
And would he do such a thing?
I don't imagine that he would.
No comment.
Well, I mean, that would mess up his hair. Well, I mean,
it certainly would, wouldn't it?
Look, let's be fair, though. I mean, we don't know. We don't know how President Trump would react in a situation like that. I do know this. At the very least, he would probably throw some paper towels at them.
Well, that we know. He's done that before.
So that way, if it's, I mean, I don't know what the paper towels would do in a situation like that. I suppose you could sop up some blood.
Have you told your listeners yet that there is a what do they call it? There is an emergency for parking tonight? A snow emergency?
No.
At 10 o'clock, cars have to be off the street. So please, if you need to park your cars, you can park them either at the Pearl Street parking lot or the one behind the Federal Building, which belongs to the city on Pine Street, and Victory Garage. I still don't understand why we no longer have parking on the west side. I mean, it's a long ways to come park your car and have to walk back across that bridge back to the west side.
I have been told that I have to be off the street by 10 p.m., but that has more to do with some outstanding legal issues.
Oh, you're in trouble again, huh?
I'm always in trouble, Glenn R.J. Willett. It comes with, I don't know if you know this, but I have a part-time job as an international crime lord.
Oh, well, you got to watch out with those things.
Oh, yeah. You're not kidding.
Something else that's really important, I think, this time of year is that we haven't really had that many fires in this last 2 weeks in this cold weather. But we've had a lot of burst pipes, a lot of damage. So people, it's very important that you keep your heat on and keep your windows closed, especially people who are tenants and rent. You know, you don't want your rent to go up. Well, then keep your windows closed.
Yes.
Especially if you're not paying for the heat. And if cold air comes in and it bursts the pipe, it's going to cost even more money and your rent will go up even more.
I will occasionally, I just think it's fun to do this. Maybe you would counsel me against this if you think this is a bad idea. I will wake up in the middle of the night and have an urge to open the window and stick my head out and try to catch some snowflakes on my tongue.
That's fine as long as when you put your head back in, you close the window.
Sometimes I forget.
Oh, well, you forget already at your age?
Yeah. Glenn, I think I have adult onset dyslexia.
Instead of Alzheimer's.
Right.
Or dementia, which is the same thing. Isn't it? It really is.
No, dyslexia is when you...
no, I'm talking about dementia and Alzheimer's.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't like to think about those things. You know...
it's coming.
If someone tells me they think they have that, I just tell them it's all in their heads.
Well, there are ways to, at least you can't guarantee, but there are ways to try to, it's like heart attacks. There are ways to try to prevent it. It's how you live your life. And
yes.
In this case, you got to keep your brain going. You know, nothing shuts me down. No storm, no nothing. Unless I'm really, really sick. I have to be really, really sick to stay indoors a whole day.
Ain't nothing going to break your stride.
No
Ain't nothing
way.
going to slow you down. Oh, no. You've got to keep on moving.
Look, it's a challenge to walk from downtown to my home around 6:30 tonight in this grave wind. I think it's great. Fresh air, getting great exercise walking in the deep snow.
You know what sucks, though, about the wind?
It might carry me away.
You probably didn't hear it. You were doing your television show, but when I was parking earlier and I was coming down the street, you know when you walk into some really cold wind and the wind is so strong that it's actually difficult to breathe while you're walking against the wind. You know what I mean? That sucks. It's very, very unpleasant.
See, this morning, that was the problem that I had. I was walking here, going north, and the wind was coming south. And so when you want to say hi to someone, you can't really see when you put your head up because the snow is all going in your eyes.
Right.
But going home, I'm going to get a push. It's the other way. So it may make me walk a little faster. It'll just stride me along.
Yes.
The thing is, be careful out there if you're walking the sidewalks because there is ice under that snow. And this kind of fluffy, cold snow just polishes the ice. So be real careful.
It polishes the ice.
It does.
That's fine. I like my ice nice and shiny.
But you don't want to slide. You don't want to slip on it. You want to slide, but not slip.
No, but I do like to be able to see the ice. So if you've got nice, shiny ice, you can see it.
Can't see it if there's snow on it.
I like when the ice, it shines like a diamond. It makes me feel better about winter.
Are you a skater?
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
I'm a klutz.
You're
I
a
cannot
klutz?
ice skate worth a damn.
At 2 years old, I was on skates.
Well,
I come from hockey land, and you know that's what you get for Christmas when you're 2 years old.
Really?
You learn how to skate.
Now, could you skate now?
I could if I wanted to, but I can't because of my ankles.
Oh, okay. I have no balance. I attempted ice skating once, maybe twice. I cannot do it.
And so you can't rollerblade either since there's 4 wheels on each skate?
I've never attempted I've roller skated, but I could barely even do that. I really have no balance. I'm a terrible klutz.
Well, if you roller skated, you mean only one blade roller skate? Or 2 blades?
Well, 2. Right? Because
you can do them in both.
You're confusing me.
It's like a skate. It's like a.
You know more about this than me.
It's like an ice skate. It's one.
I'm not from hockey country. Did you say hockey country?
No. Well,
you mean Canada?
Hockey country is not just in Canada. It's in all parts of the world that have snow and ice.
Do you think of Canada as a separate country? I like to think of it as.
It is a separate country. It's not America.
I like to think of it as northern Michigan.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would be a big state of Michigan, wouldn't it?
It would be, yes. And frankly, their budget can't handle that.
Canada is so large that it actually gets into the Antarctic.
It's large and in charge. We can't go to the Antarctic, and I think the only reasonable conclusion is because of it's a flat Earth or something. What do you think? What do you think of the flat earthers?
The flat, yeah. We still have those in this day and age.
Well, they've made a big resurgence.
Yeah, I tell you one thing. There's rumors out in the news right now that lots of people who used to like to go visit the Antarctic, just because of the nature thing, are not going right now because they have discovered an underground alien flying saucer nest. And I said, oh, come on. When you start hearing this on radio and TV, you got to ask yourself, where's the proof?
Proof? Who needs proof?
Well, if there's no proof in the pudding, I'm not eating the pudding.
Did they find pudding in the Antarctica?
I have no idea.
I'd like to go there if they did.
I'll tell you what they are finding now. Where I was a kid and you were a kid, they didn't find that. They're now finding slush because a lot of the ice is melting.
Yes. Well, that's a result of climate change.
It is. It is.
Yes.
Although somebody on the internet today said that somebody got arrested for fraud. He claimed he committed fraud by stating there was climate change in which he falsified the information. That's one person. Let's not kid ourselves here. It's not the only problem that we have, but climate change, it happens every so many thousands of years. Remember, the dinosaurs left for a reason. That was their climate change. It changed so much, it destroyed them.
How do you know they didn't leave on a giant spaceship made of pudding?
Oh, my God.
Can you prove they didn't?
And I thought I had an imagination.
I'm going to start that. That's going to be the newest conspiracy theory, and it's going to be huge. It's going to catch on. I bet I could convince Trump of it.
And is Trump going to join get on the plane, get on this flying saucer with them?
No, but Obama will, according to Trump, because Obama's behind the whole thing. Him and crooked Hillary.
You know, it's funny. Those who said, and I'm not taking sides, but those who said in 2016, send her to jail. What was that cliche they were saying?
What cliche?
They were telling Hillary to put her in jail.
Lock her up?
Lock her up.
Yes.
It is so funny that the ones that were yelling that from the mic are the ones that are now slowly being convicted or are being indicted, not convicted yet.
Well, you're speaking of someone specific, obviously, Michael Flynn.
General Flynn, yes.
Who, yes, he did lead on more than one occasion.
And he was so poetic when I still watch it. He was really, the character. He was really playing. He was convinced. And I'm saying, be careful what you say because it comes back to haunt you.
Oh, well, yeah, not only that, but of course, when he that comment that he'd made, prior to everything happening to him that's happened, where he said that anyone who pleads the Fifth Amendment obviously is hiding something, and then he pleads the Fifth Amendment. Oh, it's wonderful.
Pence didn't have a very good day yesterday, the vice president.
What happened to Pence? I missed this.
He had to go to the Senate and swear in the new Democratic Senate elected person from Alabama.
Yeah, Doug Jones.
Doug Jones. And he brought in his wife, which he should. And he brought in his elder son, which his elder son is gay. And he's announced it. And they were staring at each other because they, wow, that's that a statement or what?
Yeah, anyone who hasn't seen the picture, there's a picture online of Doug Jones.
When we keep Idaho students in classrooms, they have better physical and mental health. Help keep the student you love in school by getting them vaccinated if they're eligible. Make sure they wear a mask, frequently wash their hands, and stay home and get tested when sick. Our teachers and other school staff can also do their part by choosing to vaccinate, wearing a mask, and supporting other preventive measures. For more information on preventive measures, please visit coronavirus.idaho.gov or contact your child's school.
And now it's Geico's Motorcycle Rules of the Road. Before you ride, make sure your mirrors are clean and adjusted properly. And if you're going on a group ride, make sure the lead biker knows where they're going.
Ed, quick question. Where are you taking us?
Oh, I have no idea. What, am I the leader? Because I was following that dude with the red helmet. Where is he?
And the rule to saving on motorcycle insurance is, in 15 minutes, Geico could save you 15% or more.